Good morning, Mark. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I am great, and I want to talk about several issues, actual senatorial issues that are plowing forward, but we have been treated to the spectacle in the last 24 hours, and especially with you here, I don't need you to join me in the level of crotch kicking that I've delivered to the spectacle of Jeff Flake and Bob Corker. It's above all else, it's sad. These are decent men with a certain residual conservatism and a certain usefulness, and they've cashed every single bit of it in on the altar of Trump hatred. I just can't believe what I've seen. And let me just let you address it, and then we'll get on to other stuff.
Well, I think it's unfortunate, the nastiness that pervades Washington right now, and the political battles of personality that consume seemingly every minute of the media attention and an awful lot of the time and energy here in this town. My view is simple. I don't care about the political circus, about who's throwing rocks at whom. We got a job to do. We have a job to do because we've got a unique opportunity. This doesn't happen very often, Mark. As you know well, a Republican president, Republican heads of every agency, Republican majorities in both houses. We need to deliver. The Texans are frustrated. Americans are frustrated. Why the hell isn't this Republican Congress that we elected standing up and doing what they promised they would do? And so all of this bickering and sideshow, I think, is exactly that. It's a sideshow. We need to focus on passing major tax cuts, repealing Obamacare, bringing back jobs, delivering on our promises.
No doubt. And sideshow is a metaphor I understand, and I think you're right in terms of comparing it to the real nuts and bolts of the issues. But if from Corker and Flake to John McCain and others, and, I don't need to call everybody out, if their personal animosity to the president is going to inform some tantrums that they're going to treat us with on the way out, it is their petulance that threatens the real developments that you are talking about wanting to see.
Well, look, I think everybody should stop bickering and engaging in just personal attacks. I think we should focus on doing our job. That's what my focus is. I'll tell you, every day walking down the hall of the Capitol, that there is a swarm of reporters like locusts that descends on me. And they want to comment on so-and-so said this, so-and-so said this. And it's like you're back in junior high. I really don't care who passed a note to the cute girls in pigtails. We got a job to do, damn it. And so all of this nonsense, I got nothing to say on it. Everyone shut up and do your job is my view.
Then let's dive into what the job is short term. Let's talk tax reform first. There's a lot that we don't know about exactly the shape of the tax. There's some stuff has dribbled out. What's yet to be hammered out, and what are you paying the closest attention to?
Well, listen, all the details. At this point, we know some broad brush principles. Some of the broad brush principles that have been put out are pretty good. The bullet points say cutting the corporate rate to 20%. That's a very good thing. They say immediate expensing for capital expenditures, which allows a farmer who buys a new tractor to expense that, allows a steel factory that installs new equipment to expense that. That's tremendously pro-jobs, good for economic growth. We know that the proposal includes ending the death tax. That is absolutely a good thing. Death tax is horrendously unfair to farmers and ranchers and small businesses. We know that they're proposing doubling the standard exemption, which is a big tax cut for every taxpayer. We know that they're proposing lowering rates and allowing most, if not every American, to fill out their taxes on a postcard. All of those are positive things. But with tax reform, as with most things, the details matter. And at this point, the House Ways and Means Committee have not rolled out the details of what specifically are the numbers, when the different rates kick in, what credits or deductions or exemptions they're proposing eliminating to help pay for this. So that's expected to come out either late this week or sometime next week. And when that comes out, I expect we will have a robust conversation. In the next couple of months, it's going to take at least a couple of months to work through the negotiations, the battles that are necessarily going to be entailed. But I'll tell you, Mark, I believe we will get this done. I would believe we will pass tax reform. It may be the end of this year. It may be early next year. I think we need to keep working until we get it done. And what I can tell you is I am spending every waking moment, day and night, trying to bring Republicans together, trying to forge a coalition of 50 out of 52. It's part of why I'm not taking the bait on any of these personality fights. We need 50 votes. I'm trying to get 50 votes because we got a job to do. And day and night, that's what I'm trying to do, is get tax reform passed and repeal Obamacare, which I haven't given up on. We're going to keep at it. I'm going to keep at it until we get it done.
There's been an idea of the House doing something with tax reform, sending it to the Senate, and I think the president himself has said it'd be great if you guys just passed what they send and not engage in all of this conference committee thing. That seems unrealistic. I think there's going to be the hammering out of some details, don't you think?
Of course there is, and that's natural. Listen, tax reform is major legislation, and the legislative process. You know, Bismarck said there are two things you don't want to see being made: sausage and legislation. And that's very true. They're both pretty ugly, what goes into it. That is especially true when you have an excruciatingly narrow majority in the Senate of 52 Republicans. And let's be clear, those 52 we've got, it is a flighty conference. There are a whole bunch of senators who are capable of jumping ship on the slightest provocation.
Yeah.
Which is maddening. And look, this is what I bang my head into each and every morning, and that is deeply frustrating. But we can't have any excuses. It doesn't matter how frustrating it is. We need to get the job done.
No, indeed. And you have a great op-ed about North Korea, and I want to hop into some global affairs here. And I totally understand that you don't want to get down in the junior high school muck, but I just can't get past it because you and I both keep coming back to the diciness of vote counting, that there's some people who seem to be on board and some who are not. Here comes 2018. There are about 8 or 9 Democrat senators fighting for their lives in states where President Trump won. There's some folks who are clearly in an obstructionist mood. I don't know that we can just let that go and say, boys and girls, play nicer. I think these people need to be called out, not in any kind of caustic way, but the truths need to be spoken. It's the last I'll say about it, and I'll let you finish up, then we'll do some North Korea, that this obstructionist self-absorption has got to give way to the agenda that the American people voted for, and that anything to the contrary, that's the sideshow. That's the albatross hung around the conservative agenda that Americans voted for last November.
Look, I very much agree with you that if we fail to deliver on our promises, the consequences for the country and the consequences politically could very well be catastrophic. If you look at Obamacare, the 2 times we took it up and tried to get it repealed, each time we lost a different coalition of 3 senators. The first time, the 3 senators we lost were Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and John McCain. The second time, we tried a different version of Obamacare repeal, and we lost Susan Collins, John McCain, and Rand Paul. That is very frustrating. I can tell you each of those 4 senators I've spent a lot of time with, trying to get them to yes, trying to find out, okay, what will it take to get you to yes? It is worth noting for a moment, though, Mark, we spent the last decade with the media and Republican leadership saying the problem with getting things done is conservatives. It's conservatives. They're unreasonable. You need to look to the elder statesmen moderates who know how to govern. All right, big boys, we got a majority. And you know who it is who's screwing up governing? It's the so-called elder statesmen moderates. The conservatives are doing everything possible. I'm working day and night to lead the effort to get this done. And all the people who have piously intoned on television for a decade, they know how to govern, they're the ones mucking it up and stopping everything from being done. And that has got to change.
This is why I love Ted Cruz segments. And on our remaining, there are plenty of reasons for that. And one of them is foreign policy, foreign policy acumen. You have a wonderful op-ed in the New York Times. It may surprise people to know that North Korea is currently, right now, not designated as a sponsor of terrorism. Why in the world not?
Well, the reason this is a hot issue right now is actually legislation that I introduced that passed a couple of months ago. And the legislation that I passed mandates that the State Department make a determination by the end of October whether to list North Korea as a state sponsor of terrorism. And so Rex Tillerson has a statutory deadline of the end of the month to make that determination. Now, you asked why aren't they listed? Mm-hmm. They aren't listed because they were delisted previously when the Clinton administration and the George W. Bush administration were cutting a deal with Kim Jong-il, who was Kim Jong-un's father. And they both were hoodwinked into believing that if they lifted sanctions and gave billions of dollars to Kim Jong-il, that he would honor his promise not to build nuclear weapons. Well, we all know how that ended up, which is he took the billions of dollars and used them to develop nukes, and now it is threatening the lives of millions across the world. And if you look at North Korea, by any reasonable measure, it is a terrorist state. You look at their horrible treatment of Otto Warmbier, the American citizen, young man from Ohio, was a student at UVA. I'll tell you, I met with Otto's parents recently.
Oh, my.
It is horrifying what this college kid who was over in North Korea, and, look, he grabbed a North Korean poster to take in his bag to take back, because I guess he thought he was funny. He was a college kid, and it was a prank, and they threw him in prison, and he lost his life of severe brain damage. I mean, it's horrifying. And this is a regime that engages in murder, that engages in oppression, that is spreading terror throughout the world. And so in the New York Times this week, I argue with facts and evidence and details why the State Department, the only reasonable choice they have under the legislation that I introduced and passed, is to list North Korea as a state sponsor of terrorism, because that's what they are.
That is, and there are two lessons I'll wrap up with, and thank you for them. One is the notion that the elder statesmen who've been there forever always know how Washington works best, and the other is that appeasing tyrannical terrorist regimes works. Or I think we're in the process of learning greater wisdom on both fronts.
I certainly hope so. And we need to learn more quickly.
Indeed so. The clock, as they say, is ticking. Let's not bury the lead. Astros in 7?
I think it's going to take 7, and I'm looking forward to Game 7. Last night was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, that was tricky.
But, we're going to be home Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I'm hoping for 3 W's coming out of that. Although, you know what? I would certainly take stealing the next game in L.A. and coming home and being able to win it at home.
Verlander has the ball tonight. You got to believe. Thanks, Senator. Appreciate it a lot.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.